people, nice dolly shots of people walking through like kind of like this kind of old school wooden house, and there's creaks, and maybe there's some sort of ominous shadow figure who appears when you turn off the lights or something like that. And that's how they advertised it. And instead, the movie is one of the most unfashionably trashy, high concept new metal shock genre movies that I've seen literally since like the mid 2000s. Yeah. So basically, it's a merging of the ostentatious, like expensive digital filmmaking Juan has been kind of developing. He's always been doing cool stuff, like even in his blockbusters, things like Furious 7, things like Aquaman, he's always been experimenting with what digital cameras can do, what kind of shots you can get. There's shots that you see in some of his movies that I've never seen in another movie. Even in this, like all the insane like wide angle lens wonders that he does, and the impossible dolly and crane maneuvers like through spaces that don't make sense. Like there's like a shot in this where the camera almost like feels like it's dollying through like the peephole on a door. And it's like, that's not possible. I don't know how he does it. It has to be something to do with digital stitching, plus the way that he shoots it.
Or when he does the bird's eye view of the entire fucking house, like, and you see every single room and the staircase and all that. Like
she goes on multiple levels.
Yeah, it's insane. Like his style is unbelievable. It's really fast paced. It's very. It feels like, is the word kinetic? Like it's got like it just feels like it constantly merges with everything else that's going on in the movie. It feels like it just never stops.
Constant sense of movement and construction and it's all in service of one of like the messiest, craziest screenplays anyone has tried to make into a movie that cost this much money in a long time. This movie, very clearly, James Wan clocked $1 billion at the box office because of Aquaman. Yep. And he's already gearing up to shoot Aquaman 2. He's probably already is shooting it. So Warner Brothers was like, here's a blank check to make whatever you want in between. And he fucking took it. And that's why I ended up having one of the best times I've had with a movie in a long time. Yeah. Because this movie is dumb. Oh, it is dumb as shit.
Might not even make sense. I don't know. But
yeah, but it's dumb in the way that is actually kind of an asset when you want to make a movie like this, which is essentially, for anyone who hasn't seen it again, it is for a little while. It's the polished haunted house movie about, a woman dealing with domestic violence and the grief of losing her child and various things like that. Then it turns into a serial murder mystery film, specifically of the kind of surreal, gory, primary color lit kind of sequences that you would expect of the Italian horror, which is a great contrast point because it just so happens that we are going to be talking about Italian horror next week. Specifically Mario Bava and Dario Argento, who are definitely two filmmakers who the giallo genre definitely inspired Juan. Although it was really cool to see someone make something inspired by giallo filmmakers and to not like try to do the whole like homage through like the film stock and like the look of it. Like this is a hyper digital film done in the exact same crazy style Juan does. But he threw in shit like the magenta and blue neon lighting on people's faces and a killer in a black trench coat and a black glove with pulling this, like, out this golden weapon. Shiny blade that he just shoves into people's fucking faces over and over again. Or, the violence is really gory. Yes. It's digital gore, but in my opinion, again, the whole movie is kind of digitally stitched in terms of the style. Yeah. So that didn't bother me that much. It didn't bother me that it didn't like try to look like a Fulci movie, that it was James Wan's version of that kind of imagery.
And the fact that it goes like you said, it's got the ghost element, and then the second half is like the second part rather is the giallo element, and then it fucking goes off the rails and turns into Basket Case.
The last 30 minutes is something I've never seen before. It's nuts. It is not only is it Basket Case, which and also a little bit of Brain Damage, which is obviously both movies we've talked about on the show, Frank Henenlotter films about sort of like the the sort of like conjoined creature splatter horror of the grindhouse 80s.
Yes.
Very, very good films. If anyone hasn't seen them, you should, because we've covered them on the show. But both are really, really good and are... I'd say they're a little bit more emotionally complicated in terms of the relationship that the character actively has with the creature attached to them. Because like this film, it saves the creature as a reveal rather than making it kind of like the sort of like main emotional and sort of character thrust of the movie. Like for example, in Basket Case, it's about this little tumor twin brother that has grown out of his abdomen, and the parents and the sort of like really terrible doctors wait until they're kind of like teens and attached to each other to cut them away from each other. So then you get this little meatball named Bilal who just rars his way around, and the two brothers go back to New York to go and get revenge on the doctors who separated them.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is you kind of know that right off the bat while you're watching the film. This one, you're watching these doctors get murdered, and you slowly over the course of the movie find out that, oh, this woman isn't being stalked by a killer, and it's not some imaginary friend that she's had since childhood, even though I did like kind of some of the fake outs actually with a childhood friend. Yeah. That bit where she watches the tape of herself talking to Gabriel, and she's like, shush, Gabriel, or she's talking on the phone with him about like killing mommy or something like that, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. It reminded me of the videotape, the VHS tape stuff in The Sixth Sense a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was what I kind of thought about. So I kind of liked that little fake out. But then, yeah, it turns out that Gabriel is actually this tumor, this malignant...